Hey guys, M4J3F here once again, and welcome to the third part in my M4J3 Plays Pro Evolution Soccer 2013 as M4J3 United. Right, first game out the way, we won it 2-0 against Club Brugge. What I am now doing is choosing all the players who I think could do with improving, and in this case for McCona, he is over the age of 25, and you know what that means, folks, he gets put on the transfer list. Whereas players like Franklin, because he's only 16 and he's actually over 60 rated, he gets put on the loan list. So he can go off, spend a season away, come back, hopefully be better. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they need another season away. You did notice there, Delamond and Bobo de Silva, they are rated quite high. But then, if I'm playing as just a team of 50, 60 rated players and they're all 16, I'm going to get my arse kicked for most of the matches. So what I decided to do was give me two players who are, really good, and the chances are they'll be sold or they'll be released when they refuse to sign a new contract in a year or two anyway. Ubtig, he plays for We United on the actual game, but if you did what I did and I changed We United to become Welwyn Garden City, so that's who he plays for on here, in case all of you people are confused by why you can't find a Welwyn Garden City team with a right back called Ubtig. So yeah, 1-2-0 in the first game. Now I'm starting to transfer list and loan list players, which means at some point I'm going to have to bring players in. So you see, I've already put Ubtig on my wanted list. I'm also going to raid the youth team a lot in this game. I mentioned it in the first video, but as good as the scouting system and the youth academy system is in FIFA, I love the fact that on PES you have just a list of players who come through your youth academy, let's say, and because it updates every January, it's almost like signing new players in January. So you can, like, 1st of January arrives, you go straight into youth team, look down the list, oh look, I've got a new player who's rated 75 and he's only 16 years old. Boom, free transfer. Sign him up, he'll be on cheap wages because he's a young player. It means you don't have to pay ridiculous fees to get a rated 70 16-year-old from, say, I don't know, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea. You've already got one, he's sitting in the youth team, he's waiting to be signed. You'll see here, I'm looking for English players. I'm looking for good young English players. Reason being, as I've said before, I like young teams. I want to build a good, strong English young team who can challenge for a title, get into the top league, win that, win as many trophies as I possibly can. However, PES has this strange thing built into it. And again, I'm calling it realism, because on FIFA, I've noticed before, I've played as Fleetwood Town before in League 2, and just because I've had enough money, I've been able to loan and buy Niang from AC Milan for the season. There's been no, hang on a minute, what would a Serie A player want to do playing in League 2? Whereas on PES, you actually there's a feature built into it where he might not say it directly, but you can sort of tell when a player rejects you, it's because your club is not of a high enough stature. So, I mean, it gives you inspiration and it gives you motivation in order to come up the leagues, just so you become a big enough club in order for players like, let's say, Niang again, to want to sign for you. On the flip side of that, it's very annoying in the first season when you're in D2 and you're frantically trying to find some good young players to sign, and then you realise that every single player you've just put in a bid for plays for a top division side, and they wouldn't shake a stick at you in anger. What that basically means is they don't want to join you. This is why I ended up being forced to look through my youth team, because I found that players like here, you see Oxlade-Chamberlain and Jordan Abita, they very, very rarely will they actually come to play for you. But you also see there, Ubtig, he's interested in joining, he only wanted a 1-year deal. And to me, that's football suicide, only signing players on 1-year deals, unless they're at the end of their career and you're their swan song. Because, especially on games like Football Manager, if you sign a player on a 1-year deal and then you decide in January that you want to sign him up for another year, and then another team comes in and gets him on a pre-contract agreement, it's a real kick in the teeth. So I always go for a minimum of 3 years if I can, 2 years if 3 years is the maximum and they don't want to accept it. Preferably I go for the maximum, so 5 years. Although I'm hoping in the next generation of games coming out later this year, they decide to put 8-year deals in, because as you've seen from Alan Pardew at Newcastle United, 8-year deal, and his entire coaching staff, of course. I want them to bring in that sort of idea, so that not necessarily every one of my players is signed on 8-year deals, because you might decide after 2 or 3 years you want to get rid of them, and then you can't because they've still got 5 years left. But in terms of being able to hold on to players, definitely 6-7 year option is the one that I'm looking for. Because otherwise you still end up with players sort of 4 years down the line, they decide they want to leave. They might have a year or two left on their deal, and you can use that time to convince them to stay. So Alptig is signed on a 2-year deal, and this next screen coming up it basically demonstrates why I love PES so much and why I prefer PES over FIFA. Because on FIFA, if you sign a new player, it just comes up with a little box in the middle of the screen saying such and such signs for such and such. Whereas on PES, you get this. You get the press conference, you get the player talking about, joining the new club. You get the photo opportunity, you get to see the player in the kit before the match kicks off. It gives you another chance to have a look at your manager, see how you've set him up. I just think it looks fantastic. And I remember PES a couple of years ago, you'd sign a player and it didn't necessarily have the cutscene, but it had the player posing with a shirt on, holding a ball, usually with his thumb up. It's just that little dynamic. It's the small details as well. Like at the start of the season, you get to see your manager talk to the squad, giving them like a motivational speech. And at the start of the game, even when you're in the middle of setting your character up, you see like a board meeting. They're discussing what sort of manager they want, and you feel more part of the game, because you obviously got the agent guy sitting there saying, "Oh, my guy's the one for you," which no matter who you are, he will always say that. And okay, the cutscenes tend to get a bit samey after a while, but just the idea of that, you feel more part of the game, and it's all cinematic and things like that. And it goes the same for goal celebrations. On FIFA, I like doing goal celebrations when I score, but unless you remember what every single one of them is, you end up doing the same ones over and over again. Whereas on PES, you can set up a player and you'll choose 2 specific goal celebrations you want them to do, but then even you have those 2 set up, if they score, they can do any range of celebrations, and it goes into a cutscene like you'd expect. Say in live football, it goes to different camera angles. You get to see the players celebrate from different shots, and it just looks so much better. And you can have your teammates come over and they all join in, and you can end up with like a team bonding dance sort of thing. And I just love that so much about this game. That is the reason why I buy this game every year still. There's the whole idea of being able to score pile drivers from 30 yards and things like that, and the fact that you can get a general. Passing's a lot easier on PES, I admit that, and I do prefer passing on FIFA, and that you can get it right and you can get it wrong, but PES as a whole I find is a better game. Anyway, because I've talked for so long, you missed me loaning out Franklin for the season, and you also missed Oxlade-Chamberlain turning me down. This screen says that Obiso has also turned us down. So as I said before, you get to the stage where players who, they're never going to get a game. Obisa's never going to get a game for, I think it's called Berkshire Blues. I think I renamed them for this game anyway, so in this case they will appear as Reading. He'll never get a game for them, yet because of the whole I'm a lower club than Reading, he won't join me. Which, I find that really frustrating, but then at the same time, it adds to the realism. So I try again, Sammy Amiobi, who happens to be a personal favourite of mine anyway, being a Newcastle fan. I follow him on Twitter. I like his tweets. He tweets a lot of funny stuff, and if I had a PS3, I'd play FIFA against him. I think he has a PS3, he might have an Xbox, but anyway, I digress. I put in a bid for him, and I also just decided to go to try and buy some players as well as loan some players. So, you see I skip over Nile Ranger quite quickly, going back to the Newcastle connections again. And I can't actually remember who it is I buy in the end. I get to the stage where I like the team I've got, and I know I need to strengthen it, but I can't really find where. Because of the whole versatility thing as well, I can say to myself, I haven't got a good centre midfielder, but actually if I buy a better right midfielder, then the right midfielder can play centre midfielder and he's just as good. and it becomes a real who do I sign sort of thing. So there used to be a feature on PES where you could let your scout do all the signings, which again I used to like, until he sold your best player for undervalued price as well. So you'd switch him on for signings and you'd switch him off for sellings, and they took it out of this game, which I agreed with in terms of selling players, but in terms of buying players, my scout used to pick out some real good players for me. So if Konami do ever watch this video, what I would like is a feature where you can ask your scout to sign players but not sell players, or vice versa. So anyway, this is another thing I like about PES, is you actually get a detailed breakdown of the opponent. So you get, in this case, you get to see who their target man is, you get to see their tactics, you get to see their formation, and you can set your team up accordingly. But I let my coach do that. So whilst he does that, guys, I will get ready for the next game, and until then, I will see you soon.